Time to round up another big topic from the week. New developments in the Ukraine this morning. The Associated Press reporting an unidentified gunman has surrounded a Ukrainian military base in the Crimea. The reports say at least 13 troop carriers and 4 armored vehicles, all with Russian plates, are preventing Ukrainian soldiers from entering or leaving. Ukraine's leader is now calling military movements, which started yesterday, an act of war, and they have demanded Russia's President Vladimir Putin pull the troops back. Putin says his country has the right to protect its interests and the Russian-speaking citizens there. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel spoke to his Russian counterpart yesterday, but officials say the U.S. is still focused on finding a diplomatic solution to the crisis. NATO, meantime, warns that Ukraine's territory must be respected and is coordinating a response to the Russian incursion. Friday, President Obama said there would be costs if Russian forces entered Ukraine's territory. The evolving crisis in Eastern Europe is our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you. We've been reading your comments that you've already been posting on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also send me a tweet at Sally Mack, Fox 26. In our newsroom, we have Chris Tritico, our legal analyst, news analyst, and foreign affairs expert, Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst, Jackie Bally. All right, what do you guys think about the developments?
Well, this is a very, very delicate situation for President Obama. For several reasons. First, the United States public is not willing or ready for the United States to get into another war, A. B, we are not going to war with Russia, period. And so this has to be a diplomatic solution because there's just no chance that we're going to go into a war with Russia. The president was very careful yesterday in the way that he said what he said because he didn't want to draw a red line like he did with the Syrian conflict and get himself into a box. And so he left it open. I think you're going to see coming up the president and the rest of the world slowly tightening the screws on sanctions against Russia and trade sanctions against Russia to get them to stop their intervention into the Ukraine. Jackie Bally.
Well, he did imply there was a red line by saying, you know, these...
But he didn't say it.
He didn't say it because he knew last time when he drew the red line, nothing happened. And all of the things he's saying right now, yes, we would like to see something as far as sanctions. We are not going to war with Russia, even though we all know Putin is nothing but a bully. And I think what he's doing is just showing exactly who he is. But one of the things, I mean, I look back at Ronald Reagan, best president ever, and he used our economic strength to stop the Cold War. Right now, I'm not really hearing from our president what our plan would be. So for him to say, look, he cannot do this or Russia needs to stop, but yet we're not saying what the implications would be, we're really just left up in limbo.
Well, yesterday they hadn't moved in yet, and so really it was a preventative statement to keep them from coming in, wasn't it?
Well, not everything is about President Obama, good or bad. I mean, this is what Vladimir Putin and the people of this region are fighting for. There's this hunger for freedom around the world, and it's not just in the Middle East, but now you're also seeing in Eastern Europe. And so as this movement becomes richer and it goes around the globe, people like Vladimir Putin, who comes from the KGB era and is an authoritarian dictator in many ways. He's continued to stay the leader of Russia as prime minister and president and prime minister, so he keeps switching titles, but he's the one in charge there. And this, in the fall of the Soviet Union, is what he's trying to build back. And part of what we saw with the Winter Olympics was the beginning of that. He spent $50 billion for a reason.
But he also knows we got to go to Sally, but he also knows we can't go to war, not going to war with him. He knows that.
Well, Russia is not just another nation. It's the number 2 nuclear armed nation after us.
Right.
So we may be entering the hotting of the Cold War.
A reinitiation, I guess, of the Cold War. Sally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most of our viewers that we're looking at right now on our Facebook page are like Paula. Paula says the U.S. should mind their own business and stay out of Ukraine's problems. We can't even get out of Iraq or Afghanistan after all these years. We need to bring our soldiers home and work on our own economy. Enough already, she says. Guys, also, Senator Cornyn was here in town yesterday, and he made the comment that the president has laid down the red lines before, and there have been no consequences.
Well, I don't think that's fair. He shouldn't have said that about Syria. It's really not a fair comparison What he said about Syria, he shouldn't have said, because the United States public was never going to approve, and the Congress was never going to approve another incursion. So the president spoke before he shouldn't have. But in this instance, and I disagree with whoever it was that Sally just read, I disagree that the United States should stay out of this completely. Because if we stay out of this completely, this country is now a Russian satellite again.
Putin will push and push. That's what he does.
Right.
And if we stay out of it completely, he will take over. He wants complete control. But when we say we're going to interfere, but then we have no type of policy in place, which is clear in this, the same way we did not have a policy in place for Syria, that's when you're going to hear the sound bites from Senator Cornyn and other elected leaders, because they're saying, okay, how are we going to get involved? And even when the president does make his statements, he does not have a plan in place. That's been the complaint that we've been saying. So even though my colleague says it's not always about Obama, he is supposed to be our leader and supposed to tell us exactly what our foreign policy will be in place.
Well, I mean, that's like saying basically we should have a plan in place for every single country in the nation when they have some kind of a revolution, and that our plan dictates how the rest of the world should act and function, which is just not true or accurate or by any means. Look,
in a fluid situation, we have to make moves.
Absolutely, and this is really, if you look at the stem for the American inability sometimes to influence world events, it began with going to Iraq for a war that we should have never fought. That has weakened us economically, has weakened us, in our national security, and we keep coming back to the fact, and just the Facebook person just said, we can't go to another war. The reason we can't, where our military strength is not there and our economic strength is not there, because we entered two wars that one of them which you shouldn't have.
We're going to have to leave it right there. Sally, we'll be back next week wrapping up the hottest stories of the week.
All right, we appreciate the great discussions as always this morning. We'll see you next week. Happy Sunday, everyone.